Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 293 of the J Situation Podcast. I'm recording this on February 17th, 2026. How are all you wonderful folks doing? Thanks for your patience. We were out last week at a research symposium, and so that's why there was no podcast. But have no fear. We're back, and boy, do I have a special treat for you today. In addition to the technical discussion for the Otter Creek Labs OCM family that we recently published a couple weeks ago. There's a brand new research report being published with this episode, the U.S. SOCOM MK23 Offensive Handgun program. And that's right, the HK MK23 and the Knight's Armament Silencer have now been characterized by PEW Science, and we added other tests to the internal research program as well. You actually have 6 of them. You'll get the Knight's Armament Silencer and the B&T silencer that came later, and we did them on both the MK23 and the USP45 Tactical, and both weapons also unsuppressed. So that's why you get 6, right? It's 2 silencers, 2 hosts, and then 2 unsuppressed tests for a total of 6 tests in the study. All the data is in the report. This is a long time coming, and there are a lot of people to thank for it, and we'll do that in an intro topic today on this episode. We've been doing a lot of testing. I wish I could tell you about all of it, but I can't yet. But suffice to say, this year is already super busy. Pretty cool. Some administrative things because I've been out for a couple weeks. So. One, we're still in YouTube jail. I think we got a couple of strikes on the channel with the podcast episodes. We did actually speak with Google, and we think we know how to prevent in the future. It's really weird. So suffice to say, you folks that like to listen on YouTube will not see this episode for a few days. We should be back on YouTube soon with regular episodes. And there was something else I was going to tell you up front here. I can't remember. It'll come to me. Okay, cool. We'll get on with the show. If you've been here before, welcome back. If you're new to the podcast, oh man, you come to the right place for silencers. Tell you what, we're super glad to have you here. There are timestamps in the episode description for you to skip wherever you would like. Oh, I remember what I was going to tell you. We got some new corporate members of PEW Science, which is a really big deal. And I don't want to butcher the name here. Let me go to the supporters page on the website. Since we've last spoken, we got B&T. That's a big deal. We got Rampart Range Suppression. We got Ambient Arms. So there's and I don't know, some of you might not know that AAC is back, and they're a member too. So if you go to the PEW Science website and you go to Services and Support and you go to Supporters, you can see all the corporate supporters. And you know what? Actually, now that I think about it, there's another member. We just haven't put them on there. They joined today. Let me look at the system really quick. It's, what is his name? Oh, shoot. Oh, I'm going to butcher this. Oh. I didn't plan on talking about this. That's right. T&K Hunting, I think, joined too. They're up in one of the Dakotas. And so they're a soft goods company, but they are starting to make silencers. So they joined. So yeah, there's a lot of new corporate supporters joining, and that's really cool to see. It's really helping to not only push the industry forward, but it literally helps keep the lab's lights on, and it helps fund stuff like we're publishing today with this gigantic 45 ACP study, which, you haven't even seen 45 ACP data from us yet, so that's pretty cool, right? So anyway, shout out to these folks. If you see a PEW Science supporter in the wild, give them a high five. Tell them what's up. All right, cool. All right. Since I took so long on that, we'll just read some short ads for you. For the folks that directly make this podcast possible, because it's really hard to do every week. The first one is Legion Athletics. Man, they've been stuck with us for several years. I just popped some pre-workout before the podcast that I use a lot from them. I take their creatine every day. I use their vitamins and their minerals and stuff. Use code PEW Science on their website. Buy one, get one, 50% off your entire shopping cart, and you get 20% cash back going forward using the code forever. It'll never expire, which is amazing. And then Silencer Shop is with us as well. They've endorsed the PEW Science Test Laboratory since its inception. It's a really big deal. They're a very large distributor. Use their kiosk. Get your biometric information in there. I recently learned you can actually go to the ATF website or eForms, and actually, if you do your fingerprints through Silencer Shop, you can actually download them for free through eForms. Someone on Reddit figured that out, so go Google about that. That's pretty cool. So do that. Also, Top Gun range, Houston, awesome range, 15-lane indoor shooting range, largest firearm rental fleet in the entire state of Texas. If you're just passing through Houston on a business trip, go see Kyle and his crew. They're amazing. If for nothing else, just to discuss silencers with them. You might buy something, you might not, but they're awesome. One moment. Also, Capital Armory, they're also in Texas. Are you noticing a theme? Silencers are in high demand. Capital Armory can actually get the stuff directly to your door. If you're working all the time at different locations, you just don't have time to go to a gun store like me or other people that work nights or stuff like that, like at different like refineries and stuff. I have a lot of colleagues that do that. Man, folks like Capital Armory can really save you a lot of time. And actually probably save a lot of money too, when it all comes down to your travel and everything. So yeah, Capital Armory, silencers shipped directly to your door. Also, podcast is sponsored by the PEW Science Laboratory. We're in our 6th year of public operation. I can't believe I'm saying that. That is so nuts. I'm the technical director of the lab. It's not the only lab I run, but it might be one of the coolest. In the interest of public education, we continue to sponsor this podcast, and I do it every week. As I can for you. And the purpose really is to explain all the stuff that's technical on the website in plain English, but also talk to you, let you know what's going on, and showcase the suppression rating and the silencer sound standard. That's the most in-depth and accurate silencer data analysis in the world. It's all available 24/7 to the public at pewscience.com. You can support with a membership, which would help you support the stuff that we're publishing today. That's part of the benefit. The other benefit is that you support everything we do to keep us going. The other benefit is you'll get more data. That's right. As a thank you for support, we give you more in every report, you members. And also, if you don't want to pay, and it's really cheap, it's like less than a cup of coffee per month, which is awesome. It's basically free. But if times are really tight and you're trying to cut expenses, don't do that. Just do like a one-time donation. And if you don't want to give any money, that's okay too. Just spread the word. All right, cool. So the two topics I have prepared for you today, we're going to talk about we're going to go through technically and in more detail the Otter Creek Labs OCM family that we published that report like a couple weeks ago. So we'll go through the OCM5 and OCM6 on the M4. Funny enough, those are reflex silencers in the style of Ops Inc. silencers, which are historic from the Mark 12, a la Phil Seeberger. So that's interesting because that's like super historic, right? Well, the next topic is going to be the intro to the historic research study we did with the Knights can on the Mark 23 with the BNT and everything. So this episode is basically like silencer history. Like, this is like one of those things where you turn on the History Channel at night and you see a Hitler documentary, but like this is like cooler than that. Well, I guess it depends if you like Hitler or not. I'm saying like silencers are cooler to me. I don't like where this is going. We're going to go on to topic one. Where's my pen? Hold on a second, dude. Oh, this is a disaster. I go away from 1 week and I lose my mind. That's an air hose fitting. That's not a pen. All right. Oh, here's a pencil. All right. Regroup. Rally. He's disorganized. How can we trust him? Topic one at a time at 8 minutes. and 49 seconds. Oh my God. It's rough, guys. I got silencers coming out of my butt. We've been testing so much. There's silencers everywhere. I can't even see my desk. There's a problem here. If you only knew what we're doing, it's not normal, not healthy. That's for sure. Yeah. Topic one, sound signature review 6-213. Otter Creek Labs OCM5 and OCM6. Reflex silencers on the 14.5-inch M4. It's kind of weird, right, that we use the M4, but I'll tell you why. So, again, if you haven't read the report, it's report 6-213. You probably need to read that. But, if you want to listen to this first, that's fine too. I'm going to break this down into intro. We're going to talk about the physical overview of the two silencers. We're going to talk about then we're going to talk about the actual technical design of the two silencers. Then we're going to really quick touch on the hazard map brief to give you a full, easy peasy way of looking at the hazards from these two systems. Then we're going to go technical deep dive into the performance from the report, and then finally give you some overall thoughts. Okay, that's how I'm going to structure this first topic, and I'll break into the subtopics with timestamps as typical. And so, yeah, this is pretty cool, right? This report, because folks were screaming for Mark 12 data, right? And one second. Sorry, I literally got sick yesterday. My kids had something which got me, and I woke up this morning and I couldn't even talk, and I was like, oh yeah, I have to do a podcast today? That's going to work. So anyway, you guys were screaming for Mark 12 data, right? For the past, 6 years, because everyone wanted to know what the Allen Engineering silencers do, on pretty much both your own ARs and also like the cloners who like to look at the special purpose rifle, which is the Mark 12 in the 16-inch and 18-inch barrel lengths. And so we thought about doing it. And a while back, actually, Otter Creek Labs came to us and wanted us to test their version of the ops can, of the Allen Engineering can. The instead of AEM, Otter Creek did the OCM, the Otter Creek model. And so we did the program, and then Otter Creek Labs was like, well, a lot of our user base wants high flow rate, instead of high back pressure. So they came out with a retrofit for their silencer, which is the OCM6. And then we ended up testing that one too. So after it was all said and done, Otter Creek Labs was like, hey, it would be really cool if you could put together a comparison report to show people the behavior of these two systems and kind of what the trade-offs are, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, yeah, bet. I'm like, that's awesome. We'll do it. And I think a lot of people are going to like it because a lot of people want to know how these type of reflex silencers work. And so, yeah, this is, the reflex silencers are interesting. I think some people really do like them. And some people just think they look cool. And some people really don't even understand how they work. And I think all three of those groups of people are in good company. That's just fine. It's okay if you don't understand how something works. That's why we're here. Reflex silencers in general are not necessarily high performance. Just like any type of silencer isn't necessarily high performance. It's all about the actual design. We've demonstrated that over the years. So we're going to get into the research, and we're going to look at these silencers in detail today, and we're going to talk about what makes them tick. And we're going to start with the easy stuff first. Okay, let's start with the easy stuff and the physical overview at a time of 12 minutes and 46 seconds. Okay, so I better write this down better. I am cavalier today. I am off the reservation, as they say. He's crazy. So physical overview of these two cans. So as we talked about last episode, if you remember, it's okay if you don't. The OCM family is a play on the AEM family, which is a redo of the Ops Inc. family. Stay with me. So as a result of all of that, these silencers are stylized externally the same as the historical Ops Inc. reflex silencers of old. The silencers of old. Smooth, plain black tubes, just the way us old silencer nerds like it. Tasteful knurling to get the silencer secure on the mount. Kind of cool. And if you look at the end of these things, the end caps are actually pretty similar between the two models, between the OCM5 and the OCM6. But you can tell them apart pretty easily because there are radial ports on the OCM6 end cap because it's a higher flow model, and that's one of the ways that Otter Creek Labs are increased flow rate. One of the ways is through distal venting. We're going to get to that next, but it's not the only way, but it's one of the ways that they reduce back pressure. The main external feature that makes these silencers pretty unique is the mounting system. And I really like what Otter Creek did with this specifically, because historically, if you go back in the record, and if you're an old person that likes silencers like me, if you ever wanted to use an Ops Inc. can, you had to, you need their muzzle device first of all. You had to have that on the barrel, and then you had to have a collar after the muzzle device to let the taper of the rear of the reflex silencer seat on there in a line. And he basically aligned the whole thing, right? And it was a pain in the butt. It was doable, but it could be a pain in the butt if your rifle wasn't set up right. And so what Otter Creek Labs did, which I thought was pretty cool, was they have these reflex muzzle devices that the muzzle device itself goes back over the barrel, and it has the same taper shoulder interface. You can just screw the OTB. So you can screw this over the barrel, this OTB mount. You just screw it onto your barrel, and then it has the same taper shoulder as the collar from the Ops invention. As long as you have adequate clearance and you can get that over the barrel mount onto your barrel, then you can put these OCM5 silencers on it. You can even put the AEM or the Ops cans on it, which is cool. And, I told you, well, why do we test this on the M4? It's like, well, we wanted to test it on a standardized platform that we've already had in the pedigree. And we obviously couldn't use the Mark 18 because it doesn't have a long enough barrel past the gas block. The M4 does, but we had to remove the handguard from the M4. But it still worked. It's just, we had to remove it. It's not ideal, but at least it gives you apples to apples comparison of these silencers to the other silencers on the M4, which I think is important. What else? Yeah, that's the main thing I want to talk about there was like the OTB mount that Otter Creek Labs has. So we used the original OTB mount that they made to test both silencers. I'm not sure of the generation that Otter Creek sells now, but the OTB mount that we tested with is the first one they ever released because that's what they sent when we tested OCM5, and we had it in inventory to test with the OCM6. It just sits there and waiting for a test. Like, that's what we do. So the silencers are pretty long, but they're reflex silencers, so some of that length fits back over the mount, right? And then the mount fits back over the barrel. So the length from the barrel shoulder to the end of the silencer, the front end of the silencer, ends up being around 7 inches, a little less than 7 inches, even though the total length of the silencer plus the rear of the OTB mount is a little over 9 inches. So you're saving 2 inches of length in total, which is pretty cool. Well, I guess the $1 million question is, does it even matter? It's like, well, for performance, but we'll get to that. Another thing about these silencers, I kind of like the weight, like the mass of them, just because they're old school style silencers. So heavy things are cool when they're old. That's just a thing. Like the OCM5 is about a pound, and then the OCM6 is a little bit heavier than that. And one thing to note about like the physical characteristics of these things, and we're going to talk about details in a second, but material-wise, OCM5 is stainless steel. OCM6 has an Inconel core, and it's also more complex. That's where the extra weight comes from. But because it has an Inconel core, you can wail on the OCM6, and you're probably not going to break it as long as it doesn't come loose, which it probably won't because of the taper mount. If you has knurling, dude, tighten it up. You know what I'm saying? All right, let's talk about the internal design at a time of 18 minutes and 22 seconds. And my throat is hurting so badly right now. It just started hurting again. This sucks. 1 second. I know my voice sounds weird because I can hear it in my headphones. It's okay. All right, so silencer design. And so this is where things really diverge from the original Ops stuff, okay? And this is important to understand. I think I might have explained this already, but I'll do it again. So we should probably talk about the Ops design first, even though we haven't tested them. But I just want to talk a little bit about it. So Phil Seeberger, rest in peace, who created Ops Incorporated, designed a dished and ported baffle system that performed pretty well. And for the time, and I guess now too, I mean, we haven't tested them, but I hear they're pretty cool. Anyway, he utilized, I'm going to say this in the way that I understand the silencers work. He said some things that I'm not sure are on target technically, but I'm going to say what I can see from his silencer designs is that he used blast load reflections in annular space to increase suppression efficiency in the reflex portion of the silencer. And there is a connection between Surefire and fill. And if you look inside a Surefire rifle silencer, you will see that the baffle design is taken from fill designs. Okay, that's like in the RC series, not the 300 SPS. We're talking about like RC2, RC. Okay. And earlier. You will see. I mean, it's not like a debatable thing. It's not like, oh, that's coincidence. No, it's definitely not. It's actually one of the most obvious things you're ever going to see in silencer pedigree history, probably, because dished baffles, they're just not as common as the cone derivatives, like the K baffles, the common M baffles, things like that. They're not, like, the dished baffles just aren't as common. They didn't proliferate the same way. They're uniquely Seeberger. And in the modern age, Surefire never really did get away from that, did they? Now, I haven't looked in the RC4, but they never really got away from it. They really doubled down. And it's just interesting because when you look at the rear annular space in the Surefire RC series, the place where like you can make them pop if you shoot an RC2 like really aggressively, there's a hot spot that's going to form on the proximal end of the tube. And what's happening there is the annular vents after the blast, first expansion chamber, the blast chamber the hot gases are venting out of these ports into the annulus, and it's jet impingement directly onto the outer tube. And what's happening is that tube is locally heating, and then the hoop stress that is induced by the blast load in confined blast load in the silencer exceeds the yield stress of the tube that has now dropped because of heat. The strength and modulus of elasticity have now dropped because of heat. The load demand exceeds the capacity, and you get a yield, and it will fish mouth. Okay, that's how you fail in RC2. Just if you wanted to know that. So that part, and here I'm going somewhere with this. That part of the RC2 would not exist without ops. Like when you really think about it, how would Surefire have known to vent like that without what Phil did? Just think about it. Just look at the designs. Just look at them. Okay. I'm not like saying this is good or bad. I'm just saying, like, if I don't say that, who's going to remember it? People die off and they don't talk about stuff. It's like, well, we gotta talk about this stuff. It's important to, like, care the history, right? I think. Anyway, one second. So when you look inside the OCM5, switching gears to the topic at hand, when you look inside the OCM5, and you can, if you want, you can Google it, because Otter Creek posts all kinds of stuff online. It's nothing secret, right? I mean, it's all on the damn internet. You look at the cutaway, and you're going to see, well, it doesn't share anything in common with the ops silencer except the damn taper interface and threading inside. Now, if you squint your eyes a little bit and you tilt your head, you might think, where have I seen this Otter Creek thing before? Where have I seen this before? And you would hearken back to Godini's designs, Joe Godini's designs using the Omega baffles. And you'd be right mostly. I mean, you're not 100% right, but you're mostly right, because what an Omega baffle is, broken down to its basic form, it is a curved cone with a mill cut with ported passages to an outer annular space around each baffle. That is the essence of that patent that is now, I don't know, I think it's expired. Doesn't matter. That's the essence of that invention, right? Sounds simple to you now, But back then, it wasn't so simple. Okay. So those ports in the omega baffle stack, they help relieve stagnation, which is really cool. And the cone geometry is pretty efficient in its own on its own, like even without the porting. When you combine the features together, you get really high performance suppression, and it holds up to this day. There are several omega baffle silencers and omega baffle derivative silencers, which, if you really want to talk about omega baffle derivatives, I mean, you could go Nomad, Hyperion. I mean, I know those aren't exactly that, but there's tech in there. Anyway, I mean, the omega baffle technology holds up. So for whatever reason, and it could be patent stuff, it could be something else, I don't know, it doesn't matter. The OCM5, what it did is it takes the omega concept and it makes the cone straight instead of curved. Now, that's not the only difference. There's porting differences too, and there's some other things. But the concept, the blast load propagation internal concept of the silencer is the same. And I say all this to say this is one of the reasons why the OCM5 has such high back pressure, because that's what omega baffles do. If there's one thing omega baffles do is create back pressure, dude. How do you think they're so quiet? It's a gas trap son of a gun, dude. It's like engineered to do that, like for real. So you got to wonder, you think about this technically, you got to wonder, well, how much in the reflex portion of the OCM5 is propagation happen? Like, how much is being used? Like, are you using that reflex portion enough, given if you know how an omega baffle works? I mean, I don't know, maybe you're using it the same amount as the freaking original Ops 12 model used. I don't, I'd have to look. I was looking at cutaways the other day of the old Ops cans. I have some pictures of those. I was looking at them and I was like, yeah. It's like, I don't know if those are as efficient as they could be. There's some early porting in the OCM5 into the annulus that probably helps. I would like, if I had my way in like infinite time, I would be interested to see a sensitivity study performed with different structures back in the reflex portion, just to like see what I see. Like, if I was a silencer developer, that's what I would do. And they probably have done that. I just don't have access to that information, but that's what I would do. Anyway, now when you look at the OCM6, it's a different animal altogether than all the stuff we've been talking about. Completely different. So much so, it's like it's way more modern. Here, what Otter Creek Labs did, well, they used an infinity derivative core. Completely different. So, I mean, completely different. And I'm not even sure how well the reflex portion works, given the early time flow rate change with the infinity core. Again, it would be interesting to study that too. I have a feel, I don't know this for sure. Otter Creek might know. I have a feeling some of this reflex stuff is not, I know it's a reflex silencer, but is it really like being utilized to its potential, like with that extra real estate? I don't know. I'm not saying reflex silencers don't work. I'm not saying these reflex, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you cannot just extend the silencer back over the barrel and create magic performance increases. Like, it just does not work like that. You have to do some stuff. So there's method to the madness, okay? Anyway, it is important to note that both of these silencers are very different, the OCM5 and OCM6. So broad strokes, we can explain that with pictures, actually. It's actually the fastest way to explain it to you is with pictures, and there's only two that you need to look at. They're the hazard maps, and we're going to look at that next. Let's look at time of 29 minutes and 12 seconds. Okay, so that's, what is that? Subtopic delta, okay. All right, we're going. Yeah, this would be hazard map brief 8.1.10. That's in section 8 of the Silencer Sound Standard, Advanced Silencer Research, subsection 8.1, which is hazard maps, and is the 10th hazard map brief. That's the numbering scheme in that section of the standard, 8.1.10. Okay, you can also see these hazard maps in the main report, report 213. But if you want to see only the hazard maps with a very succinct discussion, that's what the brief is for. And it's free. There's no member version of that. It just is free for everyone. It's just public. So this is one of the cases where I would emphatically say I am super glad we wrote PewSoft HD, and I'm super glad we started creating these hazard maps. I think a picture is worth 1,000 words. I think folks who've shot an OCM5 know how much back pressure there is. I think they agree it's pretty extreme. I think if you shoot it on a gun like an M4, which is more overgassed than a Mark 18, I think you're going to get what you see in Figure 1 of this hazard map brief. Okay, you're going to get exceptional gross suppression performance with a lot of risk reduction forward to the operator, but back where the shooter is, you're going to have more severe blast loads, which increase the hazards. And this is a case where I think tuning your gun is really important. I think if you tune the gun well, I know that if you tune the gun well, you'd get a lot less red on the map back there near the shooter. And that would be really cool for you. I would be happy if you reduce your risk by tuning your gun, so do that. When you look at the OCM6 results in Figure 2 of the hazard map brief, or if you're in the main report already, if you just look at the OCM6 hazard map, you can see the balance of the OCM6 compared with that of the OCM5. And here you see that, yes, you increase distal flow rate and the hazard field forward of the shooter broadened and got more severe. Okay. The ejection port blast got less severe. Something you can't see in the map is that the early time flow rate inside the silencer also increased. That's that infinity core. So it's not just that more blast is coming out of the end. It's actually that there's also less system back pressure in multiple time regimes. So you get less severe breach blast loads because of multiple factors, not just the vents in the end. Okay, it's important you understand that there are things happening in early time that are not just at the end of the silencer. So what you could do, you could also tune the gun for the OCM6, and you could further reduce ejection port blast, making it less red at the operator's location on the map with the OCM6 too, which would make you have an even better experience. It's just it's a game of balance and give and take with these two silencers, and that's really it. Those two maps give you the full story of signature suppression, or at least personnel hazard reduction for these two silencers on the M4. It gives you the full story. Now, if you want to make it better, tune the gun. The end. Okay? Now, if you're interested in the nitty-gritty details of how this all happens, we can dive deeper. Let's do that in subtopic echo at a time of 33 minutes and 5 seconds. Okay. Very good. Making great time. Perfect. All right, so now I'm going to open up report 6213. There's a member version and a free version. If you are not a member, just pull up the free one, dude. Or do that. If you're a member, pull up the member version because you have more information in it and you want to be cool. 1 second. Looking cool is important. Being cool is more important. Bottom line up front, same thing you see on the hazard maps, right? Just more explicit for you. 42.5 muzzle suppression rating, 1 meter left of the end cap of the OCM5 on in the free field, 1.6 meters above the ground. 17.5 suppression rating, 6 inches right of the shooter's right ear, for a total composite suppression rating of 42.6 for the OCM5. Okay, so put that in perspective: 42.5 at the muzzle, 17.5 at the ear. Now you see what the hazard map looks like. Now look at the hazard map; those same numbers on the hazard map. Now you look at the hazard map, you're like, that's what he means. That's what I mean. That's right. Now you go to OCM6, 33.5 at the muzzle. Okay. 22.7 at the ear. Total composite rating of 34.1. Same weapon. Mil standard free field. Remember, that's a 14.5 inch M4. mid-length gas, 076 gas port, H2 buffer. Okay. So when you change the silencer from OCM5 to OCM6, you move from 42.5 at the muzzle to 33.5 at the muzzle. So you're dropping quite a bit. Then you move from 17.5 at the ear to 22.7 at the ear. So you're coming back up at the ear. Okay. That's what moving from OCM5 to OCM6 gets you. Now, is that worth it to you? Well, maybe. It depends what you need from your silencer system, right? So it depends if you're tuning the weapon or not too. You see, it's like, well, let's talk about it. Because you lose almost a category of bystander suppression rating, which is not a little bit. That's significant. So if you look at the hazard maps again, what's your goal? Is your goal absolute suppression? If so, OCM5 tuning the gun is your goal. So the answer. Okay. Now, is your goal shooter comfort, especially if you can't tune the gun? Well, maybe OCM6 is your answer if you're into this stuff. I don't know. And remember, you can tune the gun to reduce blast load out of the ejection port, but what you can't tune is rapid fire gassing you. But that's different. You're not gonna. These silencers aren't for rapid fire. These are special purpose rifle. These are for I don't know. This type of gun and silencer, I would not. It's not a mag dumping type of system. It's a more of a slow fire. Pick your target off type of thing. I think. That's just me though, I guess. Especially given the weight of the thing and the size. What we'll do, let's go through the blast load physics from the OCM5 first. And for many of you PEW Science and blast physics veterans and you analysts out there, this is going to be really easy to see. I mean, this is actually, I know these are relatively complicated silencers, and they are, it's a long report, but this is probably one of the easiest reports to interpret in the standard. Just if you are an experienced reader, because the waveform features are just so in your face. But some folks are new, and also some folks might need a refresher. So that's what we're going through. Okay, I just want to just trying to speak with everyone here. If you look at scroll down on the report, you check out blast overpressure in the free field from the OCM5 in Figure 2A. Okay, you have Figure 2A and 2B. 2A is the full-time regime, 2B is the zoomed-in early time. Now, do you notice anything that jumps out really clear to you? Well, there's two big things. Well, there's three big things right away. The first, low pressure amplitude. That's a little abnormal for this weapon system. Then the blowdown time is really, really long. It's okay. And then the bolt carrier group is coming back into battery a little faster than you typically see. You're okay, that might be important to know. And when you zoom into early time in Figure 2B, you're going to see that the jetting is really controlled, and it's humming along close to the amplitude of the first couple jet. And so you put all this together, all these little clues here, without knowing what silencer it is. You put all these together and you see, well, this is a sign of high flow restriction. Okay, that's you can see that in it's a pretty conclusive thing right away, and we haven't even talked about other stuff yet. So now you go to momentum, you go to the impulse space in Figure 3. Again, you'll have Figure 3A and 3B here. You're going to see the physics I just described. They're mirrored here. The accumulation of momentum in the free field adjacent to the muzzle is very gradual. There's some first round pop divergence, but it's not very extreme. It's actually pretty well controlled. And after the first round pop, the silencer settles down, and the combustion propagation is pretty highly controlled. It really is. And that's actually very important. After FRP, when you look at what this silencer is doing and how low the amplitude is too, it really highlights the high performance of this thing. This is a high performance silencer. I know the technology is not super new. It's an omega baffle derivative, but there's a reason why it is. Some stuff just works. Okay, and it does well. This is a high performance silencer. I don't know that anyone that owns one of these doesn't enjoy it. I read the opinions of people, and people love this thing, dude. It's quiet. Assuming you tune your gun right, but in general, like if you're like shooting this and like someone's like nearby, they're like, whoa, what's that? I bet it's quiet, dude. Once you get into the 40 zone on a 5.56 gun, bro, you're doing some work, son. Now again, but not everything's roses, right? With the OCM5. If you are a PEW Science member, this is one of the reasons why being a PEW Science member is cool. You can check out the shooter's ear analysis, and other than just the suppression rating, you can see a little more detail. And when you look at those signatures near the operator's head, boy, there's significant ejection port blast in those overpressure components. And what that does is it keeps that blast impulse into the positive phase for a longer period of time. And what does that mean? That means there's more energy pushing on your head for a longer period of time, and that's bad for hazard for people. And if it were me, and I was running one of these, I think I've said this 6 times, I would tune my AR. I would use an adjustable gas block specifically. That's what I would do. That's going to help you in 2 ways, actually. First, it's going to keep that bolt closed a little bit longer and drop the blast overpressure when the bolt does open. Secondly, it's going to reduce the amplitude of the blast load coming out of the gas tube. See, because with a direct impingement AR, you're double dipping your hazard reduction with an adjustable gas block. You're reducing chamber blast and gas tube blast. Some people think, oh, it's just a gas tube. What do you think is coming out of that gas tube? Gas impulse. That's how the gun cycles. What is another word for gas impulse that happens dynamically from a combustion event? Blast impulse. What's another general term for that? A blast load. So, by that logic, what's coming out of the gas tube? A blast load. That's right. Blast load comes out of the chamber and the gas tube. People are like, oh, piston systems aren't better. Okay. Okay, whatever you say, brother. And to top this all off, the M4 is fairly overgassed. So you put a silencer like the OCM5 on it, which we did for the test. What's that a recipe for? It's a recipe for ejection port blast town USA population U. What do you see if you're a PEW Science member in figure 5? There's a sign. It says ejection port blast town USA population U. Anyway, now, okay, so scroll down. We're going to look at the OCM6 test now. Scroll down. Now, same weapon, same ammo, same size silencer, same mount, but different internal design. Okay, vented end cap, but also very different inside. This is a different sport. So now look at the blast overpressure in the free field in figure 6. So completely different behavior, completely different. And the neat part about this is that I would not even have to tell you what silencer this is for you to know it's operating completely differently, right? Just by looking at the blast overpressure in figure 6 and comparing it to what you saw in figure 2 for the OCM5. Just by comparing that, we could blur out the names of the silencers. You would still understand. How cool is that, right? So what are the differences? And what do you see right away? An obvious difference that jumps out at you is the higher peak pressure amplitude. Okay, that's very easy to see. That's a given. But also, what else? Oh, it seems to decay really quickly. The blowdown time is shorter. You start to see ground reflection unnest. Whoa. Okay. Bolt carrier group returns to battery later in time too. I know these are very gross high-level statements, but in this case, what are they drawing you toward? What conclusion are they drawing you toward? The same conclusion. This must be some kind of higher flow design. And you would be right. Now, when you look a little closer in early time, In figure 6B, you're going to see there's actually a gradual rise to peak blast overpressure from the muzzle that takes a little bit to develop. And what we call this in blast physics is a ramped rise time. Okay, we call this a ramped rise time in a gross sense. I know it's not for you physicists out there. There are multiple phase components, but I'm giving a gross description of the totality of what's happening. I know I'm using the term a little differently, but just cut me some slack for brevity. But why is it ramping? So why are you seeing things ramp about half a millisecond into the event that started in figure 6B after the initial couple jetting from the bullet and the initial flow? Like after you get that bullet come out and it couples with that jet, about half a millisecond later, you're getting this ramp. Why is it doing that? Well, it's doing it because the infinity baffle stack in the OCM6 is allowing the vent array to be exercised gradually. It's not just dumping to atmosphere. It's not like they just drilled holes at the end of the silencer. I'm going to keep saying this, but people talk about Huxworks flow through, and they talk about Otter Creek Labs Infinity, this hybrid design, and they talk about these things, and I think that, I'll just drill holes in the end of the silencer, and it's the same thing as a Huxworks, or the same thing as an Infinity, or it's the same, and it's not the same thing, because if it were the same thing, you wouldn't see the ramped rise time in figure 6B. This is real physics. This is real test data, and I want to debunk what I've heard these people in the silencer industry say about high flow rate silencers, because it's just not true. Okay, what you're seeing physically is the coalescence of primary axial bore flow and vent flow. They're gradually combining to ramp up the overpressure, and it's a significant part of the event, so much so that after that event, you're humming along, and the latent jetting phase is just like happening relatively quickly before decay. And the big takeaway here is that although it is ramped, it's still dumping momentum faster to the atmosphere than happens in the OCM5. So you are ramping. It is doing its job, but it's still coming out fast, and it's still faster than the OCM5, and that does affect things. And when you look in figure 7, which is the blast impulse, and you can compare it with the blast impulse in the OCM5 in figure 3, you can see what I'm talking about. You look how in the OCM6 impulse plot, it has a steeper initial slope. You see that? What is that doing? The omega metric has dropped. Remember, the omega metric is the inverse of the slope of the accumulation rate to maximum peak positive phase impulse. That's the definition of the term. It's just math. Okay, and then the math changed. Why does the math change? Well, because the behavior changed. What is math? It just describes behavior. It's just a language to describe physics and nature. So the math changed because the behavior changed. So the OCM6 has lower back pressure in late time, in addition to the lower back pressure in early time inside the blast chamber from the initial venting. So why is the OCM6 louder than the OCM5? It lets gas out faster. And when you say that, people are like, well, duh, it's a high flow rate silencer. It's like, okay, well, if you're an expert, then why are you listening to this? Okay, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, well, it's a little more complicated than that, right? So it's because it doesn't, it could be quieter. Just depends. Okay. In this case, no, it's louder. Another interesting thing about the OCM6 is that it doesn't quite stabilize until shot 3, and I found that interesting. It's like it took time to find its groove. I was thinking about that and why that was happening. Like, I'm talking about what's happening in figure 7B. I think what's happening is like you're trying to stuff an infinity core into the ops body, and I think that you just can't get everything exercised yet, And I think they probably just need to port something more in the center of the stack or something. We have a strict policy where I'm not going to design a silencer for you, but I think you haven't stabilized all of the volume of the silencer yet. You haven't pressurized everything quite yet. Once you get to shot 3, you're good. Pretty much, kind of. It's pretty good. It's not too shabby for a high flow design. I'm being a little picky. I'm pretty strict on this, but it's pretty good. So PEW Science members, when you look at the shooter's ear numbers, you're going to see the OCM6 is like way easier on you, dude. Like, and again, can you improve it even more by tuning the rifle? And yeah. But you're going to start in a much better place than you were with the OCM5, which is cool. Okay. So what you need to do too is go in this report, which is important. If you can go to figure 10 and compare all the M4 data together, and man, look at all that data now. It's cool how much we're getting on the M4. We'll get more later this year too. And the OCM5's way up there on this, guys. I need you guys to understand something. Some people, I know our Mark 18 data set is really big and it's bigger than the M4, but something you need to understand is some silencers can't do what they do on the Mark 18 on the M4, because what the Mark 18 does, the pressure is so high, you can actually use suppression mechanisms that sometimes don't work as well on an with a longer barrel. And some folks are like, I'm just going to say it. I think some folks are getting lucky because their technology is so dependent on high pressure. Or maybe they're not getting lucky. Maybe they're just playing to the test, right? Like if you teach to the test in school on a standardized test and everyone's getting a good score on their test, it's because they know how the test works. Well, maybe that's what they're doing with the Mark 18 data on PEW Science. I don't care. It's resulting in better products for the consumer, so I don't care at all. The thing is, it's like maybe they're doing that, maybe they're not. But what I'm saying is the M4, you're going to see some interesting things coming this year where some folks have figured out, maybe I'll just go back to basics and I won't count on that pressure, and then I'll let my performance scale with barrel length again. And some of the silencers in the chart do. I would probably say that these silencers might, except you can't put them on a Mark 18 because they're reflex. Anyway, that's a lot of words. You look at the OCM6 in figure 10, and it's doing pretty good, but greatly improved the shooter's ear risk compared to the really high back pressure stuff. But it's still not that high. And why? Well, the M4 is hard. It's overgassed. Tune your gun, guys. Tune your gun. Okay. All right. Subtopic Foxtrot at a time. 52 minutes. 25 seconds. Okay. So overall thoughts on these OCM things. I think overall, like, these silencers are giving the Mark 12 guys, the Ops Incorporated cloner guys and girls, they're giving them another option. And I think that's cool. I mean, we're going to talk about that in the next topic, how it's kind of cool to have options sometimes. I think the OCM5 might be discontinued, so I think the OCM6 is your only option unless you go to an actual ops silencer on the used market, or you go to an Allen Engineering, which you can get brand new, I think, from Allen Engineering. And the Ron Allen manufactured silencers are a true ops clone. I mean, because Ron Allen manufactured the dang things for Seaburger, man, when ops was around. So it has the dish baffle array and everything. So if you want a historic ops silencer, you can get one from Allen Engineering. I mean, right now. So that's cool. I hope we're able to test those eventually. I think we will. I think probably what will happen is we're probably just going to do it as an internally funded study for the love of the game. I think I said this on social media, and I really do mean this. I think sometimes some silencers leave lasting impressions on users, and I think on the industry as a whole. And sometimes those silencers even pave the way for future innovation, and maybe even the entire way things are made in design classes going forward. And I think Phil Seaburger and Ops Inc., along with Ron Allen, I think it certainly contributed to the state of practice. And I think reflex silencers being popularized, and like the dished baffles living on in Surefire. I think all that's a sign of influence. I think it's neat to see the Otter Creek Labs spin on this. I think when Otter Creek Labs released the silencer, a lot of people got mad, and I thought, what? I wonder if it was because I don't know all the history or the drama of the whole thing, but maybe it was because Ron Allen was doing them, and they saw it as like a ripoff or something. But it's not the same insides. I don't know how that works. I don't know if there's patents on something. I'm not a patent attorney, so I don't know how that works. But like, I think there was a lot of consternation in the community, and I don't know why. Because this is cool because it gives people another option to run on their firearms, and it's a different silencer. They use different technology, and as far as I'm concerned, it's completely different inside. So I guess the only thing is like the taper interface, I guess. But yeah. Anyway, I think it's cool. It'll be cool to see if more people do it. It'd be cool to see more options, I think, for this thread and taper system, because I know it looks cool. A lot of people have the guns, and now a lot of people have these over-the-barrel mounts. What if you could make these things even higher performance? What if you can make a new revision where the reflex portion is super, super duper exercise? What if you use 3D printing to do it? I don't know. You never know, right? I don't know. It's cool. Thanks to Otter Creek for trusting our lab to perform this work. They're cool. Thank you for always trusting us to do all this stuff. It's challenging to us, and we hope we do a good job. So speaking of pivotal technology, though, and man, I wish I had more energy for this because I'm so damn excited. I want to talk about something that's even more significant than all this ops stuff, in my opinion, in the next topic. Topic 2, at a time of 56 minutes and 20 seconds. And I don't mean anything bad by that. I just think this is even more significant. This is probably one of the most significant things we've ever discussed on the podcast. One second. We're in silencer history. So topic 2, Sound Signature Review 6214. That's a coincidence. Suppressed 45 ACP Historical Case Study. The HK MK23 and USP45 Tactical Silencers. The Knights Armament versus the B&T. And this is finally here. Literally waited decades for this myself. So I know you have too, because everyone's been waiting. No one's done this. So you get 6 tests in this internal research program, right? Suppressed and unsuppressed. So this is US SOCOM MK23 Offensive Handgun. And it's in the silencer sound standard at long last. So how about them apples? I wanted to thank you for your patience on this. It's finally here. Yes, it's real. The testing for this was done a while ago, and we planned to work it into the schedule earlier, but it just kept slipping, dude. You know how those things go. And so finally I made a command decision. I was like, no, dude, this is happening. And so before we get into this, I just want to thank some people because it's important, right? I can't thank everyone, but I'm going to try to get a lot of them. Several people in companies. So first, my family and my team. I don't think you understand how like obsessed I am with this, or you probably do understand how obsessed I am with this stuff, and you also gotta understand that people have to deal with me. So thank you to those people. Secondly, PEW Science members. This includes obviously all the consumer members, past, present, and future, as well as all the corporate members, past, present, and future. Hell, even B&T is a corporate member now of PEW Science, which I think I mentioned that on the intro to the podcast today. That's cool. HK's been on the list for a while. Shout out to HK. That's 2 of the 3 parties with deliverable technology in this study directly contributing to the research with money, dude. Like that's what makes this stuff happen, right? People talk, it's funny. People use the word support. They talk, oh, thank you for supporting me. It's like, well, it's the money that makes things happen in the world. So if there's a supporter on the PEW Science corporate supporters page, they're literally paying their monthly advanced membership to the research cooperative, and that money's used for stuff like this. It keeps the lights on to the lab. It's real. It's not just like, oh yeah, we tagged you in a post. No. That's not what pays the bills. Okay. I would also like to thank PEW Science members in general, not only for your monetary support, but your general enthusiasm for blast physics and personnel protection. Like your passion when you ask me questions, when you speak with me about this stuff, you speak with other people about it, your passion reminds me about my own, which is why the whole thing started in the first place. So just so you know, this is all to help all of you. It's what I told you when we launched this, like in writing. It's public record. I told you this is for all of you. And that's what the Silencer Standard is for. The Silencer Sound Standard is, yes, companies are benefiting from it, and the industry is benefiting from it, but it's not for that. At its core, it's for the consumers. It's for the people. So thank you. And thank you for the patience. And then the third group I want to thank is the people that that just exist and made this tech. So that would be Knights. That would be like Doug Olson and the people that are still alive from Qualitech. That would be anyone else that had a hand in probably one of the most influential U.S. government weapon system development programs of all time. For silencer lovers and silencer enthusiasts, like this program, the offensive handgun program, is probably it's got to be in the top 5 of like on your list of like what's important to you, or should be important to you. That's what I think. I mean, just and you'll see when you read this report that it's going to be live at 0700. You're going to see why. I don't. There's some. I've read some articles about this, about these silencers, the B&T and the Knights, and I've seen some things that just simply are not correct. And so I think this article is going to set a lot of that straight, because I think it's very important to know where all this came from and how it was all done. And man. Anyway, so enough of that. Let's talk about the program. So you guys have been screaming for years for 45 ACP, right? And for good reason. 2 world wars, big hole, natively subsonic. Boy, it's way harder to suppress than 9mm, isn't it? And PEW Science has done 45 ACP combat handgun silencer testing behind the scenes for years, actually. And it took us a while because we wanted to make sure that when we are finally ready to publish things, that what we publish and the way we do it serves the best utility for the industry at large. We give a lot of thought to that type of thing. We don't just throw a silencer on a host and shoot them and then put that on a website and run away. That's obviously not what we do at all. We put the most effort into this of anyone testing silencers in the world. And that I say that, and I will defend that statement to the end of time. We put the most effort into what we do than anyone else testing silencers in the entire world. More than the national labs, more than the weapons labs, more than the manufacturers, more than anybody, because we're the ones putting it on the internet, and you can see there's evidence of it for 6 years. So that's why we don't do it so flippantly. We take our time and really think about it because we want to get it right. And so I'm going to say something right now that might disappoint you. What we are publishing today with this episode is not standard 45 ACP pistol testing. We will not be using the HK weapons as standard hosts for 45. Okay, I'm going to tell you what the host is eventually, but it's not going to be those. This research program uses the Mark 23 and the USP45 tactical for historical purposes, for the specific silencers that were tested in the program. Now, this again, the standard 45 ACP pistol host is coming. Stay tuned for that. I'm not saying we won't be using the Mark 23 USP ever again. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they're not going to be the standard everyday host for 45. And I know some of you don't like that, but there's a method to the madness. Trust me. And you're going to have to wait and see. And when you see why we're going to do what we're going to do, you're going to be like, oh, thank you. I'm like, you're welcome. Trust me, you're going to like it. So in the morning, around 0700 or so, again, you're going to get report 6214. The report documents the internal research program. It's 2 silencers on 2 host weapons. So you get the Knight's armament, and the official model designation for this is the mod.Mark23/USP. The reason it's named that is because there was actually, first, it was the Mark 23 silencer, and then they actually engineered a piston to be used on the USP45 tactical. And then when they kept producing the silencers, they just marked and they would ship the silencer with the USP piston versus the Mark 23 piston. And now when you buy the silencer, or when you would buy the silencer, you would get the Mark 23 piston, and it would be still marked Mark 23/USP, and you could buy the USP piston separately, which I did. Okay, clear as mud. Right. So that's the Knights. It's my personal silencer that we tested. The Mark 23 USP45 ACP combat handgun silencer by Knights Armament. That silencer was created for the U.S. SOCOM Mark 23 Offensive Handgun program. Now, we also tested the B&T Impulse 2A SD Mark 23, specifically the 3rd revision. And the B&T silencer was created later using some of the same technology, because you can't export silencers easily from the United States. So folks using the Mark 23 overseas needed something that would run. Who's going to make it? B&T was there. How do they do it? We'll look inside of where you think they got the tech. Knights. Is it the same? Well, you're going to see in the morning, but it's not. I know. It's cool. Really cool history stuff. So we tested both of the silencers on the Mark 23, and we tested both of the silencers on the USP45 Tactical. I know. And the reason why we included the USP45 Tactical was because it seemed incomplete not to include the USP45 Tactical. That gun was created to be the smaller version of the Mark 23 for normal people, more or less. And if you don't like the Mark 23, or you can't use a Mark 23 for whatever reason, the USP45 Tactical is the next best thing. Now, is it as good as a Mark 23? No, it's not. Is it as quiet as a Mark 23? No, it's not. Is it as cool as a Mark 23? No, definitely not. But it does exist, and we respect it, and that's why it's in the study. So don't cry about it. So we're gonna go through all of this next episode in way more excruciating historical detail. But another reason the USP45 Tactical is in the study is because we actually have pistons for both the Mark 23 and the USP for the Knight silencer, and the consumer who loaned us the B&T silencer had both pistons for that one too. So here we are. It worked out real well. Now, again, there's a lot to say. We're going to save a lot of it for next episode after you have a chance to read this. I really want you to read it because there's historical stuff. But I need you guys to understand something. It's an inconvenient truth, but it's something you need to hear for posterity for historical reasons. So 1 second. I don't know why more people don't talk about this. There does not exist a centerfire pistol silencer on the market today that would exist in its current form without the Knight silencer that we tested here, that's sitting on my desk in front of me. And that includes the B&T silencer, obviously. And the U.S. government contractor, Qualitech, in the 1980s, when I was but a wee lad, they are responsible for not only the crimp cone baffle tech that came from them with Doug Olson as he arrived at Knights, but they were also responsible for refining and perfecting the axial piston system used in the silencer that uses muzzle blast to decouple inertia from the pistol and allows it to cycle reliably. Okay? That's where that lineage came from, and it worked its way into Knights. So, and the report has a historical note about that. Don't worry, it's not super long, but you can read it. And it goes from Maxim in the 1800s all the way to the present day, talking about recoil boosting and muzzle boosting, and enjoy that, okay? Because it's true. And it's really good to know your history when it comes to silencers, because you're gonna you need to know what's going on. A lot of you are new to this stuff, and it's important to know that a lot of this stuff stands on the shoulders of giants. And I hate it when we're in the silencer community doing stuff and someone says something that isn't like historically real, and then a bunch of people start repeating it, and then you go down the line playing telephone over the years, and next thing you know, so-and-so's like, well, yeah, we invented da-da-da. I'm like, no, you didn't. Relax. That's why I figure like writing it down is like better, because then like then again, I was doing like just today, I was just curious. I Googled some stuff to see like what other people had said about this, and I just saw completely fabricated things that were like completely wrong. And I was like, that's crazy. Like, this is like recorded history. Like, there's people still, I'm pretty sure Doug Olson's still alive. So you can't like, you know what I mean? He's still alive. So go talk to him. Shoot. Anyway, another thing you need to know right up front. And this is important for you young whippersnappers. The Knights silencer was really lauded by many in history to be the first example of a hearing safe dry 45 pistol silencer. And it's a really weird thing. I hate using that term, hearing safe, but when back in the day, that's what people would say. They'd say, well, don't you know the Knights can's hearing safe dry, which is a huge statement, right? Back in the day. And so when we talk about shooting a silencer dry, we talk about shooting it without any water-based liquid in it. And because if you take like your water bottle, like an Ozarka, like a little like water bottle you get from your whatever, and you take a bottle cap off and you pour the water into the little bottle cap, just about that much, a little cap full of water, it doesn't have to be a lot, and you take the silencer off the gun and you put that into the piston, into the blast chamber, and you kind of swirl the silencer around a little bit to, just get it all in there, get it all up in there, and then you shoot the silencer. You're going to be pleasantly surprised that it's a lot quieter than it is when you shoot it dry without any liquid in it. And the reason things get quieter is that the heat from the expanding combustion gases that enter the silencer after the bullet uncorks, those gases come in contact with the water on the surfaces of the silencer, and they flash that water to steam. And what you're doing is you're at a very, very fast rate, you're boiling water in the silencer, and that uses a lot of energy. Okay, you can compute that if you want. You have the amount of water. So you got to always remember, you can't destroy energy. You can't create energy, but you can move energy from place to place. And you can use energy to do work. And you can use energy to boil water, and for example. And when you do that, there's less energy that needs to be expelled from the end of the silencer. Okay? It's like because you used it up. You didn't destroy the energy. You used it to do something. What was the something? Phase change. Phase change takes energy. Water's good for that. You know what else we use water for? Like you ever like look at a nuclear reactor? How do you think it generates power? it's just a fancy water boiler, dude. It's literally turning turbines by boiling water. I know. It's a simple concept when you think about it. And I wanted to explain it to you in this way because over the years, I've heard the weirdest and wildest and most technically incorrect explanations of why you would want to shoot a silencer wet. And I feel like hopefully now you know why. And I know this isn't the technical talk yet, but I did want to tell you that up front because you're going to... It's one of the reasons this silencer is so famous because it actually does decently without water in it, dry. And that's very rare with a 45 pistol silencer. It's very rare. And you know, it's interesting. It's actually probably why, I mean, there are a lot of 45 pistol silencers that literally the manufacturer recommends, well, you need to shoot it wet. They're meant to do that for operational use. One of the reasons is because it's really hard to make a 45 caliber pistol silencer quiet enough for operational use without ablative media, without flashing water to steam. It's that hard to suppress 45 ACP. We're going to talk about why. And you know, another reason why the Knights can is sort of like important, besides all this history, is that it's not very long. And again, you're going to see in the report, but if you, like, for example, and we don't have this on the website yet, but we're going to eventually, trust, if you have a rugged Obsidian 45, which is a modern, like, silencer, and you use it in the short configuration, the Knight silencer is actually not that much longer than the short configuration of the freaking rugged. So I'm just trying to paint a picture for you. A lot of you have never even handled a Knight's can, let alone a Knight's Mark 23 silencer. It's one of the most rare silencers nowadays. Like, not a lot of people have them. They're still around talking on the internet about silencers or whatever. Like, you're seeing one in the gun store is like really rare. So a lot of you don't even know what this is. It's okay. And we're going to talk about it more. But another neat thing about this research program is you get to see how the B&T Mark 23 silencer stacks up. And you might ask, well, why is that important? Like, who cares, right? Who cares about the B&T? Well, I'm glad you asked. Sir or ma'am. It's important because, well, one, it's important for the history, and a lot of people have them. Another reason it's important is because what B&T did was they machined replica versions of the crimp cone Knights baffles, and they used them in their silencer, and they're not one-to-one copies, and they don't perform as well. And the really neat thing is our test data shows that they are similar but not as efficient. You can actually identify the baffle type by the signatures, and you cannot hide the fact the baffles are copies. You would actually see it in the test data without even looking in the silencer. But as we'll discuss next episode, they just don't perform as well. The Knights silencer is higher performance. And in my personal opinion, in my technical opinion, and in the test observations, I would say definitively that the performance is significantly different between the two systems. Significantly. Enough to make a difference. That's what I think. That is my opinion, based on test observations and physics and anecdotal experience shooting both silencers. I would say that's correct. Now, most people, again, including the manufacturers, both of these manufacturers of these silencers are going to tell you to shoot them wet, and you totally can. Like, that's what's cool about it. If you are in the middle of a mission, whether you're law enforcement or military, or maybe you're a civilian just needing to suppress your Mark 23 for reasons you would suppress your Mark 23, which I fully endorse. I mean, what are pistol silencers for, guys? Okay, they're not like, oh, silencers are hearing protection and no. But yeah, they reduce your risk of hearing damage, but what's a pistol silencer for, guys? You know what it's for. You know, it's for popping focus in the head, dude. That's what a pistol silencer is for. It's not for like, you're not going to carry this for a night out, for your normal self-defense. No. And the Mark 23 specifically is an offensive handgun. Okay? It's to conceal signature and kill. Whether that's a coyote or a deer or a person. Kill whatever you want with the Mark 23. You know what I mean? 2 world wars, baby. 45. Anyway, 1911 is a whole other talk we'll have. But what I'm saying, if you're on your mission and you want to be really quiet, pick your poison. I'm not the boss of you. You can do whatever you want with your guns. That's legal. You can use any water-based material of your choice. Maybe a drink, maybe some urine. You could pee in it if you want. Don't. You can. It's not going to smell good. Well, maybe it will. It depends what you ate. Asparagus? You get some liquid in there. You shoot what you're going to shoot. It's going to be quieter. We're going to quantify that later. We didn't do it for this test program because there's a lot of technical reasons why. It's just we had too many things going on. Because I want to, when we do wet testing, I want to do it like crazy. Like, I want to test a lot of different, anyway, we don't have time right now. So we figured we do it dry and then we come back and I think we do these. I think the wet silencer test would be maybe I'd buy a B&T and do it. Because I think I have to give this B&T one back to the guy who loaned it. But I'd probably buy a B&T and do wet testing with like a bunch of different like compounds just to see, like, right? That'd be cool. I think water is gonna be the best, or just because like, that's what you're doing. You're boiling the water. But anyway, so this program has 6 tests. You get unsuppressed Mark 23 and USP45 tactical. You get Knights and B&T on both guns. So that's a total of 6 tests, right? 2 guns times 2 silencers is 4, plus 2 unsuppressed, 6. You get suppression ratings at the muzzle and ear for all 6 tests. You also, as a bonus, get hazard maps for the 2 Mark 23 tests with the B&T and Knights. That's cool. So you're going to see those with a thumbnail for this podcast episode. Spoiler alert, the Knights can outperforms the B&T. The Mark 23 outperforms the USP. I say both of these things to the surprise of absolutely nobody who's actually had time behind the guns with these systems. No, like if you've actually shot both of these things, both of these silencers on both of these guns, this should be no surprise to you at all. But I recognize that like barely anyone has. And now if you go on the internet or YouTube or whatever, and you listen to some of these people talk about these 2 silencers, you're going to get, dude, there's some people there's I'm telling you, they're saying things that are 100% wrong. And I know they're 100% wrong, and I can say that with 100% certainty because the test data and engineering analysis in this program is the highest fidelity and quality of any test data gathered of these 2 silencers in the history of small arms, and I have yet to see an actual user of these silencers carry an impression that runs contrary to what's in this study. And no one's seen the study yet. They're about to in 0700. So, and if you have commentary on that, you email us, tech@pewscience.com. That's TECH@pewscience.com. You email your critique, and I will personally respond to you and talk to you about it because I want to know why it's wrong. I'm that confident in this. I have shot the Mark 23 with the Knights can so much. I know how it feels. I know how it sounds. I know what it does. This stuff's right, and it's awesome. Is it the quietest silencer? Absolutely not. Does it hold up? It holds up better than most silencers ever will. All right. So this is a long report, ladies and gentlemen. It's a study that I've personally wanted to do since I got into silencers 20 years ago. It's been longer than 20 years at this point. So pistol silencers are my jam. The Mark 23 is one of my favorite weapon systems of all time. The Mark 23 and Knights silencer combo is one of the most enjoyable things to shoot that exists that I know of. If you are a pistol guy, and if you are a pistol silencer guy, it feels that good. And rumor has it that Knights is going to 3D print them. Oh my God. For 2 years, they've told me that. I've given up hope, but then they said it again this year. I said, oh, a man can dream, because I'm so damn scared. What if I like mess up my silencer? Maybe they'll repair it, right? But I'm like, they'll only do that for so long. So I'm so scared. Like, I always like double check that it's tight. It's really cool because it has an O-ring, so it doesn't get loose, but it's like, oh my God. I'm always like, well, I'm going to go shoot my Knights can. Let me like make sure I don't break it and cry, because you can't get another one. Anyway, I hope you all like it. It was a lot of work, and you all made it happen, so thank you. Someone out there will find this useful, I hope. Stay safe. Check out the report in the morning. I'll talk with you folks again soon. All right, bye.